This past November was the first time that I participated in Naga Demon, the National Game Design Month. I had this idea in the back of my head, literally for years, to make a game that plays with the idea of uncertain information. I started by trying to do some paper prototypes, but I really couldn't get a good level of uncertainty. I really had a computational model of uncertainty in mind. So I moved forward, and using Unreal Engine 4, I created this game called Heroic Uncertainty. You can go to GitHub and download the sources or a Windows 64-bit build, but I thought I'd make this video to just walk through some of the gameplay and explain to you some of the things I was trying to explore in this game. So let's hop right in. In this game, you control three heroes, a knight, a bard, and a sage. You can see the knight has high power and low magic, the sage has low power and high magic, and the bard is the middle of the road. But the bard has a really crucial ability, which is that the bard can see through the stories that people are reporting to figure out where the stories are wrong. So these reports are randomly generated. Maurice the Beggar reports that a small ogre is active at Oaken, and it's terribly powerful. However, the text that's in blue is what the bard, again, who is the blue character, is telling us he knows that this is wrong. It's not a small ogre. That doesn't make any sense, right? He knows that, so the small part is probably not true. And also, he knows that it's probably not really at Oaken. It's probably somewhere else, near Oaken. Now, an ogre happens to be one of the most powerful creatures in the game. Those are randomly generated. So let's send the whole party together to one of these hexes around Oaken. Each hero gets one action per turn. They can quest where they currently are or move to an adjacent location. So I'm just going to send all three over here. Now we're on day 2, so I can choose, well, I can quest here and hope this is where the ogre is, or I could spread my forces a little bit. This is the report telling me that I think there's an ogre in Oaken. Let's go ahead and quest in Juniper. Hey, we found him! Alright, so the ogre's power is 6, and we can add our strengths together to get a total of 11. We've succeeded and defended this region. Now, this power of 6 is actually distributed across the stamina of all the party members that are there. So we can see we spent 1 stamina for each person to move, but now they're down to about half their starting stamina from the battle. So maybe it's a good idea to rest here. On the other hand, every day there's a chance of some new peril appearing, and whenever a new peril appears, somebody from that hex is going to move toward the capital to try to report on it. So what I'm going to do is have the knight rest. But I'm going to send the bard back to the capital. Remember, the bard has this ability to interpret what is true and false. My sage will just rest here with the knight. Oh, this is an encounter at Juniper. This means that one of these randomly generated people came from one of these hexes nearby Juniper and happened across the party. Well, that was really lucky. So Chauncey the Thatcher says there's an orc active at Oaken. The problem is, I don't have my bard here, so I don't know what of this information is trustworthy. Maybe it's not an orc. Maybe it's not at Oaken. Maybe it doesn't require magical prowess. There's a lot of unknowns here, so I have to take a gamble. So, since I have my knight and my sage, right, the one with highest strength and the one with highest magic, they're right near Oaken. I'm going to send both of them here, and I'm just going to have my bard get his stamina back by resting at the capital. Sage can go down there. So whatever this happens to be, I should have it covered. So it's the beginning of day 5. Let's go ahead and have these guys quest. Now you may have noticed before, if somebody early in the turn sequence quests, it actually uses up the action for everybody to the right. So these guys quest, they find, oh, it's an imp. How about that? So it's a power of 3, and we do have to fight it with magical power. So it's a good thing we sent the knight and the sage, because if we sent only the knight, he would not have been able to overcome the imp. So we successfully defended that region. So on each of these hexes, there's a chance that these perils will appear, and people will come toward the capital to report on them. But if a peril stays active in a hex for too long, that hex becomes corrupted. It turns green. It takes extra stamina to move through, and there won't be any more monsters that appear on it. It sort of becomes a dead hex. The game continues until 3 hexes are corrupted. So it's really just sort of fighting as long as you can against this oncoming peril. I had inspiration to try to give custom abilities to the knight and the sage the same way that the bard does. Honestly, I just ran out of time, but I'm really happy with the way this turned out as a digital prototype for this concept. There's some interesting statistical models underneath. I wrote a lengthy blog post about the design process where I talk about some of the dead ends that I went down. I'll have a link to that in the video description so you can check that out. In the meantime, I hope you found that interesting. One of my main takeaways from this experiment was I think this is a neat system, but it's not a real good primary system. I think this would be a nice system to attach to a richer exploring or combat or fantasy adventure type game. By itself, it sort of is a bureaucracy simulator, right? You get this information and you can't really trust it and you don't know how much stock to put in it. By itself, that can just be a little frustrating, I found in my own playtesting. But like I said, I'm really happy with this as a design experiment. So I hope you found that interesting. As always, feel free to leave a message in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Take care.